My ministry background, I've served as a youth minister for a couple years in Kentucky part-time while I was in college. Eventually went back to preach for them full-time for about a year. Um, and then I also had the opportunity to intern at the Holly Hill Church of Christ in Frankfort, where Brian was in 2014. We were, we were trying to figure out what year it was. It's been a while. But then for the last 4 years for 4 years, I spoke or preached at the Fairview Church of Christ in Dixon, Kentucky. I've been gone from there for about a year. We left, we announced it in April of last year. We left in July. And that was when we started our doctoral program. And I say we because my wife has sacrificed a whole lot for us to be able to do that, and it's very much a family thing. As far as agricultural education, and you'll see this all kind of pieced together as we go through. I taught agriculture for 6 years, 2 years in high school in Tennessee, and 4 years at Webster County High School, where I graduated from. So 6 years of agricultural education. Got a bachelor's degree from Murray State University and a master's from Texas A&M, and currently at Clemson. And so throughout all of that time, I've been involved in the Philippines and kind of looked for opportunities to take my passion for agriculture and use it in the Philippines. So if you're not sure where the Philippines is, and if you're not sure, you don't have to feel bad about that. Most people I talk to think it's in the Caribbean, but you can tell it's in Southeast Asia, close to China, which can sometimes tend to be an issue because China is trying to encroach into Philippines territory. A little bit about the Philippines. The landmass together is about the size of Arizona with a population of about 110 million. So it's very densely populated. A lot of the islands don't have anybody living on them. So it's even more densely populated than Arizona would be. There's about 70, depends on what data you look at. There's anywhere from 7,100 islands to 7,600 islands. That's a huge difference, but tides make a difference. But they are in the Pacific Ring of Fire, which means they are very susceptible to volcanic eruptions. There are 24 active volcanoes in the country. They're very susceptible to earthquakes. So it's very difficult for the people there to be able to sustain whatever projects or whatever things that they're doing because natural disaster. They're also in the Pacific Typhoon Belt, so they get hurricanes on a regular basis as well. For about 6 months of the year is their typhoon and rainy season. So, like I said, it's very difficult for them to really build up a whole lot of infrastructure. And so agriculture is a great way to connect with people. About a third of the country is directly involved in production agriculture, and about a little over a quarter of the people live below the international poverty line, which is about $1.25 a day. So you might be asking, why the Philippines? Why does this guy just randomly decide to go to the Philippines? My family on my mom's side is Filipino, so that's kind of where the connection started. Nobody in my family wanted to do anything with the Philippines except for me, and I don't know if that was because nobody wanted to talk about it or nobody wanted to go, so I naturally wanted to. I'm not sure, but my great-grandparents were World War II refugees to Hawaii, and then my grandmother was brought over to Kentucky from there. So since 2012 was my first trip. Since then, I feel like I've been involved in a ton of different things, some of those successful, some of those not so much. Worked with Sunrise Christian College for quite some time. The first time I went to the Philippines, to give you a little bit of the landscape, I go to this college and we are meeting about different programs and different things, and all of a sudden about 20 guys with AR-15s and AK-47s storm into the campus and basically take the campus hostage with students on campus. So that was very very interesting for your first trip. Um, and so after that, we're trying to recover salvage, because even if the school is okay, you don't really come back from having a campus that's stormed by people with guns. Security was increased and all of this stuff, but the school just really struggled. It started losing support, and eventually just kind of fizzled out. And so there were years where we were trying to revive the school. We started a new board of trustees that I was a part of, and it was just clear that this was not going to work. No matter what we tried, it wasn't going to work. So a guy, and I'll talk about him quite a bit, Ernest Montoyo, we got together and we said, look, this isn't going to work anymore. So we need to do something on our own. We need to do something about it. And so we saw a need for a new school and an opportunity. And this past fall, we officially started South Pacific Christian College. And so we're just finishing up. They're finishing up, I believe, this week, their final exams. And so we're just finishing up the first school year. We have 4 campuses or hubs, and I'll show you those in the next slide. But it's a really great thing. COVID was an opportunity for us. So I haven't been to the Philippines since COVID. And it was an opportunity because we're not spending money on going, and we still had a little bit of support coming in. And we unfortunately lost some support during COVID because they said, well, you're not going. And I said, well, that's understandable. And so we had an opportunity to say, everybody's going online, everybody's learning how to use technology, so why don't we use that to the church's advantage? So to give you a little more context of the Philippines, there are different colleges throughout the Philippines. And the college that I worked with was down here on the island of Mindanao. Mindanao is known for being really dangerous, more or less. But there's a school down in the very south. There's a school up here. And there are a few schools here in the central area of the Philippines. But one of the issues we often run into is having a school that is sound doctrinally. And so we saw that opportunity. And so this semester, we have 9 full-time students and 4 part-time students. And we have 13 students in our first year, and I'm pretty excited about that because that, to me, that's a very great starting point. So here's a closer map of the Philippines. Here's where all of our hubs are. So we have one down here, and that is the school that we did work with was over here where these roads connect. And then we have Bacolod, Kabangkalan, and Himalalud. And just to give you a little bit more context of the Philippines, there's about 150 languages that are spoke, which can be overwhelming. But here in the central part and in the northern part of the southern island, they speak a lot of, depending on where you are, Bisaya or Cebuano. It's basically the same language, a little bit different, but you can communicate. And up here, these two these 2 hubs right here speak a language called Hiligaynon. And so I speak Bisaya pretty well. I'm able to preach in it. And I speak a little bit of Hiligaynon, a little bit of Samareño or Waray, which is spoken here. And then I know a little bit of Tagalog, which is the national language. And so able for the most part to travel pretty much anywhere in the country and communicate and kind of navigate and get where we need to go. But most of what we do will be over here on the island of Negros. And I'll get into it a little bit, but I'm not able to travel here if I'm associated with Clemson because it's a level 3 with the Department of State, which means they are not going to allow me to travel there. So with our campuses, we provided each campus with the same TV, the same laptop, the same microphone, They got all their wiring. That way, if we have to troubleshoot a problem, everybody has the same stuff. Everybody can understand, how to overcome whatever troubleshooting problems they're having. Some of them already had some equipment, mostly just microphones or projectors. So all of our campuses are at a different congregation at one of their church buildings. And so we have different agreements. Some of the congregations, we pay them rent every month. Some of the congregations, we just pay for the internet so that we can have class. Some of the congregations, maybe we pay for the water or electric or share the electric. And so the church there is very friendly and very willing to work for anything that is that's for the kingdom. And then all of our classes are synchronous. So 3 days a week this semester. Last semester was 4 days a week. So our schedule kind of changes and adapts to whatever our students need. But this semester, they're 3 days a week, Monday through Wednesday, and all the classes are synchronous, meaning you might be in Bacolod, but at 8 o'clock, your class is going to video in because the teacher in Prosperidad is teaching. And so it's interactive among all the groups at the same time. And so our teachers are on all four of these campuses, and all the classes occur at the same time, and everybody's on the same schedule. And we are currently trying to work toward using Google Classroom as a platform. Internet and electricity are not always stable. Usually they are, but then when you have an earthquake or a typhoon, you can imagine it's not that stable. So we're working on getting them to use Google Classroom so that they can have everything stored up there. And then even if they can't meet together, the people at the other location have access to the materials. So here's our current schedule. Just to kind of give you an idea, we looked at Freed-Hardeman University, we looked at Memphis School of Preaching, we looked at two of the colleges in the Philippines, and we kind of put it all together and said, for a Bible training, preacher training school here in the Philippines, what do we think is necessary? And so this is this semester's coursework. So we go through English. All of the instruction, well, I say all the instruction is in their native languages as well, but most of the instruction is in English. And we try to use English because once you understand English, it's easier for you to understand Greek grammar. And so we start with English so that they can get a better grasp on English. And then you can tell they have a Monday, Wednesday New Testament survey. They're doing the Pentateuch, personal evangelism, Bible geography. That's all Monday, Wednesday, and then Tuesday they have long computer classes and long music classes. And so, and the reason we want them to do computer stuff is because the Philippines is actually surprisingly pretty up on technology. Most of the congregations will have a projector. Most of them will have a computer and know how to do all of that. Computer programming is very popular in the Philippines. So for them to have some kind of grasp on technology, and I think in the ministry, I think it's definitely beneficial. And then on Saturday, they do church work, and Sundays as well. So they have practicums, basically, where they go out in the community and they have responsibilities every week that they have to fulfill ministry-wise. And so that's they're not just getting the classes, but they're also ministering to the local community where their church building, or where their hub is. Last semester, it looked a little bit different. I said classes are Monday through Thursday. Friday was the day where they would go out into the communities. But we make sure that that's part of what they do each semester. So here are our instructors. That is Brother Warmild, and he is, I don't know if this is like appropriate. I don't know. He is an absolute animal when it comes to working in the kingdom. He is on it, and he is so active. I mentioned Ernest Montoyo. He goes by Chin Chin, so I might use that interchangeable so you'll know. He is in Cebu City. He's working for a different college, and he is on his way out because of some doctrinal things. But he's on his way out, and he is going to be our president. I'll talk about him in just a minute. But then we have one teacher in Bacolod, one in Kabankalan, 2 in Himalaya, and 2 in Prosperidad. All of these instructors, almost all of them are full-time preachers, and almost all of them have a farming background. So that also, Warmild, I mentioned all the stuff that he does. He has started an aquaponics system there at the church building. So he's teaching them about agriculture. So we try to encourage them to teach their students about agriculture and about different trades because they need to have a way to support themselves. I have preachers that'll message me and ask for support, and I say, I'm sorry, I don't financially support preachers, but I'll point them in the direction of the school or another resource, because I don't want the Philippines to become a country, it's already partially that way, that's totally dependent on foreign support. Because the goal isn't to become a preacher so that you can get paid by money from overseas. The goal is to be a preacher so that you can proclaim the gospel. And so we try to give them the knowledge that they need to be able to be self-supporting. So this is Chinchin Montoyo. He is the one that I mentioned that we said, okay, look, there's a need. We need to come together and figure this out. And he's been working at this school, and at the same time, he's been traveling all over the country trying to make all this stuff happen. And if it wasn't for him, none of this would be happening. Because I couldn't be over there, and especially couldn't be over there for the amount of time that he has spent traveling. And so he's been absolutely instrumental. Also, all of our teachers are graduates from a Christian college. So the one that we talked about earlier that kind of fizzled out. So they're all graduates or have a degree of some kind. But Ernest has his master's and part of a doctorate. But he's absolutely fantastic. And then our students, we accept male and female. They're predominantly male. Some of them are raised in the church. Some of them come from broken homes. So we're not just attracting Christians. We're also attracting people who just simply want to know about the Bible. But most of them are Christians. Like I said earlier, we have 9 full-time. We have 4 part-time. And so when we get to the budget portion, you'll see we do give them allowances. And that allowance is not, tuition is already free. That allowance isn't to pay them or anything. It is to the hub in order to prepare food for them. So, and I don't think it's very much of an expense personally. But these are a few of our students here. The guy in the middle does not look real enthused to be there, but for the school year 2022 to 2023, we've had 6 baptisms. One of our students obeyed the gospel, and then her mom obeyed the gospel, and then her brother obeyed the gospel. And now she's leading at ladies' events and doing a whole lot of work in the church. So it's awesome to see that through this alone, just within a year, the impact we're having on the kingdom. But then also, what's it going to look like when these people go out and they work in congregations and our young men become preachers? What's that going to look like? And what is that impact going to look like? So 6 baptisms with this small group, to me, is pretty awesome. And it shows the depth in which our instructors are teaching. So we've also increased community engagement. All the students have to work in the community. So that's a huge proponent. We also have sound Bible teaching. I said that was one of the problems that we face in the Philippines. And then we have more men wanting to be preachers, which is, you don't have to travel at all to know that the world has a shortage of preachers in the church. The congregation that I was preaching at in Webster County, it's been a year since we announced it, and they're still looking for a preacher. Congregation right down the road from them has been looking for 3 or 4 years. He said, you don't have to travel far to know there's a shortage of preachers in the Philippines. Is definitely no different. Here are some more pictures from where some of them obeyed the gospel. And if you've never been to a baptism in the ocean, it's pretty cool. And so, future plans. We want to continue our online programs. We want to make sure that we're helping that process as much as we can. We have a 1-year agreement with a congregation to be our temporary address for business purposes. And so we've been in the process of filing everything, and once it's filed, everything will be completely registered with the government, but we had to have an address. And it's really weird because you can't just say, well, this school is part of this congregation and they meet at the same place. The government will say, no, this is one business. So we have an agreement with one of the congregations. They actually meet at someone's house and they have a garage. So we're using the garage as the location of the school with the government. And so we're going to do that for about a year. And then we have an agreement that I hope you will pray does not fall through. They have these, and I don't want to try to explain it because I won't do it right. But basically there are agreements or scenarios where somebody can't pay for their land through a program with the government, and then you can get it for cheap. And so that's what we're trying to do. We already have the land decided on. It's going to take about a year for us to get everything in order to be able to do that. And so this congregation has agreed to let us use their building or their garage as the space until we do that. So once we acquire the land in La Carlota, we will, the plan is to use shipping containers to build our building and establish a congregation there in that town. There's not a congregation there, so that'll be another outreach opportunity and church plant for us. Like I said, build a school, build a church building. We're using shipping containers for that because that's the most affordable, and we just cover those with bamboo and kind of helps keep them cooler. And then we want to centralize that location as our main campus. And so once that becomes the main campus, we want to use the hubs for part-time students. So if you're a full-time student, we would expect you and like for you to come to the main campus so you get full person-to-person instruction. You get the collaboration and fellowship with your cohort members. But we don't want to get rid of our hubs because it's already a good thing going. And so we want those to be able to be for part-time students and then also for extension. So as we grow and build, our plan is to include vocational education. So the government has a program, it's called TESDA, and they will pay and they'll actually provide instructors and equipment, and they'll cover the bulk of the cost to teach trades at a school. So they'll teach welding, electricity, carpentry, and we'll do some agriculture. And so the long-term plan is that when you're here for a 4-year degree, each semester you are taking a class in a different trade. And then that way, when you graduate, you have exposure to all these different things that can help you provide for yourself and for your family. And so we're going to utilize that government outreach tool. And then these hubs will be extension. So extension hubs, just like we have cooperative extension through UK here. We'll do extension where they work with farmers and they work with people in the communities there. That way we continue to expand the impact and the influence of the school. So our finances, teacher salaries for 2 semester is $3,000, and this will change obviously once we get a campus that's our own. But $3,000. Chin salary for 12 months is $3,800, and your probably wondering why is his so much more. Our plan is to make him the president of the college, and he does a lot of work. So he is absolutely earning it. Our teachers are already full-time preachers. They already have a salary, so we're supplementing that. This will be Chin Chin's full-time job. Like I said, he is everywhere. He's involved in everything, and he's got 2 kids, and one of them is in college. So y'all can, if you've ever had a kid in college, you know college is not cheap. So we're taking care of him well, but he'll also be moving and living in the area. So he's also got to be able to pay for his housing. A lot of congregations have a room in their church building that the preacher will live in. So that's why he's getting paid so much more. School-related business travel. So the reason that travel can be a little more expensive is because there are so many islands. So it's not just a matter of driving down the road. It's a matter of I have to get on a boat and get a boat ticket. And then if I have a vehicle, then I have to pay to get the vehicle on the boat. So travel expenses, our allowances, I mentioned that, our agreed expenses, which is the electrical, water, internet, rent, school government expenses, so to make sure we have everything in a row with the government, and then miscellaneous. So that can be anything from, I've got a CRF 250 motorcycle over there, dual sport that I use when I'm over there, and then it's also used for the school. And so we had to fix a fork seal and do some other work. So miscellaneous is kind of that type of expense. We are in the process of selling the motorcycle. And I know Tori's going for her first time this summer, and I know she's excited that we're getting rid of the motorcycle. But we're selling the motorcycle. And if you've ever ridden 8 hours on a dirt bike, it's not comfortable. But we're selling it, and we're getting a Jeepney, which is basically just a cab over truck with bench seats in the back. And we thought that was the best decision because we're going to need to be transporting students and doing community events. So it makes sense for us to have something that's going to be much more conducive to those activities. So overall, the annual expense to operate the school, and I believe this is a very good bang for your buck in terms of the work that we're doing, is $16,000. And then annual mission trip expense, $6,000. So what that covers, plane tickets have gone up if you didn't know, but that covers our flights, and then it covers the activities as well that we're doing there. So I'll get into the trip, and I'll explain some of that, but Tori and I are both going, so our airfare alone was $4,000. Used to, we could go, both of us would be able to go for $3,000. Our long-term projects, like I said, we have to acquire the land. So this is the operating budget for the fiscal year, which is still the school year, July to June, for the school and then for the trip. And then our other projects that we're doing, acquiring that land in a year is going to cost about $2,000. We're hoping to get at least a hectare, which is 2.5 acres. And then building the school, starting in a year, 20,000, but we don't expect to need 20,000 by that point. The goal is to go as we can, and the first thing we're going to do is put up a couple of shipping containers so we can at least have one classroom and an office and somewhere to worship. And then, like I said earlier, those expenses will change as we build. So our plan for July, I'm hosting professional development seminars with our teachers. I mentioned we're trying to use Google Classroom. They're not very good at it. So we're going to have professional development for a full day. I'm going to go through how to do that. I'm going to talk to them more about pedagogy. So how do you teach? The Philippines is traditionally a very teacher-centered education system. So when they have knowledge, all it is regurgitation. And so I'm gonna do some inquiry-based professional development with them, how to get your students to think more critically, as just simply as people, but also as people who are working in the church. So different professional development, things like that for the instructors, and then agricultural seminars in the community. So we're going to 4 locations, 3 of the hubs on Negros, and then where we intend to eventually put the main campus. Like I said, I can't go to the campus in the south because Clemson won't let me because it's dangerous or something like that. But I don't know. So we're going to those 3. We're going to pay for the people in the south to come up and join us, but we're doing agricultural seminars in the mornings with people. We're expecting hopefully around 200 farmers as of right now, which is a huge number of people in the community. So we're going to feed them lunch, and then have an afternoon seminar, and then in the evening we start our gospel meetings. So the goal is to keep as many of them as there as we can and continue to preach. And I'm excited because these congregations are very active and want to evangelize. So I'm excited about what fruit we're going to bear there. We're also going to work on some promotional materials for the schools, so videos, pictures, that type of thing. Tori and I both do photography, and I say we do videography. She's much better at the videography. She's actually better at all of it, but we're going to try to do some promotional stuff while we're there, or get some material for that. Then recruiting for the school, working with the women, and Tori is going to do that. And then also, I'm conducting social research for part of my doctoral program. So basically what we'll do is we'll go in, and at these seminars, we're going to record them and record the interaction, and then I'll give them a survey that talks about their food security, their education, where they get information, what are their perceptions of those sources of information, their farms. So I'll be able to use that in my doctoral program, but also it's going to help us understand the lay of the land where our hubs are. And that gets Clemson on board for what I'm doing. So eventually the hope is that as a faculty member, we don't have to use mission funds to pay for me to go because I'm conducting research and it's all covered. So that's the goal, that's the hope. So our needs, obviously, no person with a mission presentation is not going to tell you that they don't need money. So financially, we have a need, whether that's a general contribution to the fund, whether that's something specific. You say, hey, I want to support a student. It's about $150 a semester to support one of the hubs. Excuse me, or to support some of the students at one of the hubs. It depends on the hub, but $150, $200 a semester. If I don't know, there are a lot of different opportunities if you're interested in certain areas. Certainly prayer for our students, for our instructors, for the communities we involve in, and for our school plans. And then we need knowledge and expertise in the country. If you have a background in just about anything, we can find something for you to do. So use your talents for the Lord. If you want to go, I'm going for the entire month of July. Tori's going for 2 weeks. Thank you. So there are a lot of opportunities just in July if you wanted to go, but also any other time. He said that's pretty soon. And then if you are interested in teaching at a distance, it would be right now, an 8 o'clock class. I have to think about our time change and daylight savings. An 8 o'clock class in the morning would be 7 p.m. So they're 13 hours ahead of Central Standard Time. But anyway, those are our needs. And then we have just a few minutes. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Wow. Okay, good. Thank you. So the only thing that would increase would be our student allowance. And for full disclosure, the exchange rate varies often um, so Philippine pesos, right now they're 55 pesos to $1. And sometimes they're 50. So I did this based on 50. So right now we have a little bit more, we have enough room for a little bit of growth in terms of allowances, but we're also starting up some agricultural projects. So hopefully the need for allowance will go down. But that would be the only change as of right now. Based on the current number of students we have now. But like I said, I rounded up just a little bit and gave us a little bit of cushion. And yes, sir. Yep. Like I said, hopefully these agriculture projects are going to take off and they'll be able to provide quite a bit of their own food, and we can eventually reallocate some of those funds to something else. All right. Well, I'm not going to treat y'all like my high school students and stand here awkwardly until somebody asks a question. Thank y'all very much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope that what we're doing is encouraging to you, because Tori and I really believe in this work. And it's not when we took Chin Chin on, when we sat down and me and him talked and we negotiated everything, I was like, I don't know where this money is going to come from. We don't have it right now, but so Tori and I have committed, and I don't tell you this to, I tell you this to tell you how committed we are. Graduate assistantships do not pay very much. If you did not know that, they don't pay much at all. We're at about 20% the salary we were when we were living in Kentucky. And Tori stays home with Silas, but we are covering his monthly salary until we get the funds to do something else. That's how much we believe in the work that we're doing. We're also putting our money where our mouth is. Well, thank you all very much. And I'll be happy to talk to you after if you want to talk then.